So I'm guessing today's the real reason y'all signed up, right? It's today. Today is the Joel Salatin day. Am I wrong? Tell me yes or no in the comments if you hear that. We're really excited about today's episode of the Self Reliance Voices Lessons from Legends, and I've got Toolman Tim back with me. Toolman, why don't you say hello and tell us how your day's been?
Hey, it's great. Good to be back. So, what are we looking at? 4 days in between appearances, right?
Correct.
4 days, over 2,000 kilometers. I left Tuesday morning from Provost, Alberta. I'm now sitting at a hotel in Camden, Tennessee. 3 10-hour days, 30. I just checked before I get in, 3,100 kilometers in Canadian units. So it's good to be here. I had 15 minutes to spare before I came on. So thanks for having me, Nicole.
Sure. So, guys, if his video goes off while we're watching the video, he's listening, but he might be like unpacking or
Oh,
something
yes.
too, which is totally allowed. As I mentioned, today is when I asked Joel Salatin to come to Self Reliance Festival. I had seen him speak many times, and I said, I want you to talk about something different for us. I want you to talk about how this lets people build freedom into their life, which he always touches on that, but it's often under the guise of everything I want to do is illegal, or here's how I got around regulations by finding loopholes or that sort of thing. And and I said, let's talk about something a little different this time. And you can say whatever you want to say. And he said, "Well, I have this book coming out, Homestead Tsunami, and so I can also sort of bridge those sorts of things." And I had not read the book before he came. I bought the book there, got it signed by him, and then I spent November reading that book last year, and it was
How was it?
fan freaking tastic. Yeah, and it's not just because I'm a Joel Salatin fangirl, which I totally am. It's also because the way he wrote it was for the homesteader. And a lot of people critique Joel Salatin, saying, well, what he does is unrealistic because he's doing it at scale. Now, he had to go from homestead size to where he is now, but he's talking a lot about homestead scale there and a lot about the why. So, anyway, Rachel wants to know, where's that freaking toolman Tim roaming the countryside? Are you willing to tell him what town you're in?
Oh yeah, I'm in Camden this evening for just a few hours. I got a hotel room, and then I'm heading to Bowling Green, Kentucky tomorrow for Kentucky Sustainable Living. So, can I comment on that doing things from scale for a minute? Because if anybody heard me speak at Self Reliance last year and at Kentucky this year, it's all about the poverty mindset, and that's the big crux of it. Is folks say, well, he did it at scale. Well, he has to start somewhere, and the whole idea is, and what I love, you can look at him and be inspired, but you might be at zero. And guess what? Going to one or two is a huge step for you. And that's how absolutely everybody has to look at it. Instead of looking at somebody like Joel and saying, oh, it must be nice. Look at how much stuff he has. Well, look at him as an inspiration. Realize, you know what? I was lucky enough to get to interview the dude. I decided to take a different approach. I asked him about his speaking career because I wanted to learn from the man. And he talked about the very first time he was ever asked to speak and how proud he was of that. And guess what? That was back in the 80s when he didn't have a metaphorical pot to pee in. And now look what he's doing. So don't say he has it at scale because he started and he had to scale up from there. We all do.
Yeah, his parents were homesteaders.
Mm-hmm.
They were homesteaders, and he grew up in that environment, and that helped give him the foundation of what he needed to do to make Polyface happen. But he also has paid attention to needing to make a profit on things if you're going to turn it into a living. And that's something that gets so lost in translation when we talk about scrap steadying or homesteading on a budget, is like you have to be budget conscious, but sometimes if you're too budget conscious and then afraid to charge what your stuff is worth, you end up in a situation where you're working a full-time job or two to be able to afford to homestead, and that's not the purpose. So the first thing
Absolutely.
you want to do is like not be in that situation.
And folks do that a lot. They one of the things we look at is we think, oh, well, nobody's going to want to pay this for my service because I couldn't afford to pay that. Well, guess what? You might not be your own ideal customer. So remember that. Just because you might be struggling financially, the key to getting out of it might be to find customers who are in a more upwardly mobile position than you are.
And then when you're making money and somebody needs help, you can give them the dozen eggs.
You're friggin' right.
And that's the part that it can be hard to wrap your head around. You're like, well, I don't want to charge $5 a dozen for my eggs. And it's like, well, yeah, you do, because feed's expensive and your time's worth something. And if somebody needs eggs, you can give them eggs. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. Okay, so here's
I
what's
will.
happening today.
Yes.
Tim, tell us about the giveaway that you have for folks.
Oh yeah. So I've decided that. Well, no. Anyway, we talked about it, and I'm going to give away now. Before I got to caveat this, if you want to win this, you have to pick it up at Self Reliance Festival. So remember that. But I'm going to give you 12 patches. So it'll be an assortment of the last year and a half from the Patch of the Month Club. And I'm going to give you a Toolman Tim one-time use battery pack as well. So I have those. I sell them all at the different events. So I'm going to have a little bundle there, but you have to come up, shake my hand. Plus, I'll have a super secret in-person meetup only handshake patch that I only have 150 of them, and they're going to anybody that I meet and talk with. You'll get one of those as well. So remember that, and we can draw for it however you want to do it, Nicole, but they have to be at Self Reliance Festival to pick it up.
Okay. We have a second giveaway today. Rather than a download, we have a physical item that will
Nice.
also be drawn, and it is a signed copy of Joel Salatin's book, Homestead Tsunami. And this one will be mailed anywhere in the US to you. And I believe he will put your name, but we'll double check that. You might have to wait a little while if we want to have to such and such, but that is the other thing we're giving away. And I just wanted to remind you, if you want to grab tickets or digital passes, the coupon code for $20 off is webinar20, and it's good through midnight on Sunday for Self Reliance Festival tickets, April 6th and 7th, or digital passes, April 6th and 7th. Those are at selfreliancefestival.com. Just click on tickets in the upper corner. Anything else we should talk about before we just hand it over to the man himself?
Well, all I can say is I didn't get to hear the presentation. Apparently, my name might be mentioned once or twice, but I was too busy, kind of building my little mini empire, talking to other people. So this will be great. I can't wait to hear it.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I will say one more thing. This presentation was about an hour, so we will go till 8:30 or 9, depending on how long it takes with questions from y'all. So we expect to go a little later tonight than we have gone the other nights. Here we go.
Thank you, Nicole. Wow, what a privilege to be here. This is a fired up bunch. This is fun. This is like Homesteaders of America on steroids. I was up there the last 2 days there in Front Royal, Virginia. Amy Fuel, maybe some of you have been there. Yes, good. They had 5,000 people and turned away 5,000 people. So, folks, we are in a homestead tsunami, in case you didn't know. And but that's not what Nicole asked me to talk about here today. I'm really honored and delighted to be here with you. And what she asked me to talk about was immunizing from the system. How do we immunize ourselves from the system? And as I've talked around to several of you, I realize that many of you have really specific questions about, I have chickens, or I have cows, or I have a piece of land. What's the first thing that I do? And all those kinds of things. And I'm glad to deal with any of all that that I can squeeze in. But this is a more a broader ranging kind of thing here. So let's just kind of start with saying you can't run away forever. You can't run away forever. Eventually, you have to stop and embrace something. Okay? And our goal here, I think our goal here is that when society becomes hopeless and helpless, we need to be hope and help for them. It's ultimately not about I got mine or I'm going to get mine. It's ultimately not about necessarily, being on the right end of this. It's actually how do we help these other people? So here is if current trends continue, if current trends are going the wrong way, like again, when Nicole asked me to talk about immunizing from the system, I couldn't help but think, okay, so the system is going this way, and I think most of us here feel like the system is going toward dysfunction, chaos, and breakdown, okay? So if that's where the system is going, then okay, what's the opposite of where the system is going? Because if that's going to dysfunction, then going opposite the system is going toward function. So here are some ideas to think about going toward functionality. Number one, reduce income. Now, you won't hear that at every conference. I didn't get a big amen on that one. I don't think they're going to ask me to keynote the Amway convention. Reduce income, okay? And what I mean here is not that we're all going to go into poverty. And Tim, just, be cool here a minute. It's okay. But instead of chasing how much you can earn, let's instead chase on how little we need to actually live on. We live in a time where people proudly own the term, I'm going to defund the police or defund. Well, you know what? Let's defund the government by not letting them have any of our taxes. Oh, man. Nicole, I like this group. This is fun. Okay. So how do we reduce our, a lot of people don't realize Teresa and I, people think we've been so successful, and we have been. We've been incredibly successful and blessed. But most of our lives, we've lived below the federal poverty level. Well, Polyface owns our car. It buys my clothes. That's why you put your, you can deduct the cost of all your clothes if you put an insignia on it. So now when you come to visit our farm, I might not be wearing one. This is my dress up. This is my town clothes. I actually have a Polyface insignia here today. But if you come visit us, I'll probably wearing George's Poultry, Mike. IRS doesn't say it has to be your name. It just has to be a name on there, and then you can deduct all your, so the company, Alan Nation, my mentor, always said, why does a person have a business? The main reason to have a business is so you can live your life on pre-tax dollars. It's one of the main reasons to have a business. If you got a business, everything can become a legitimate business expense, especially if you're direct marketing. If you're direct marketing, every trip to church, you might find a customer. Every trip to the store, you might find it. So the company owns our car, pays all of our bills, buys our clothes, takes us out to eat. So personally, we don't have to live on anything. Then we bleed off everything through the company. We don't have to earn any income. Okay? So, reducing your income. Have a business that you can put all your expenses in your business. Eliminate debt. If you don't have debt, you don't have to earn very much money. Reduce your expenses. Think about entertainment, fashion, daily maintenance, food, energy, transportation. Let's have a strategic plan to reduce those expenses. The question is, how little can we live on? Imagine if all of us had as our goal how little can we live on instead of how much we can make. I think this is a mind shift here. It's not a vow of poverty. It's actually helps us to strategically understand what really drives us and what is our value. As soon as we say, how much can I earn, that starts putting us into golden chains of a bigger paycheck, working overtime, being committed to something else instead of actually doing what we value. I would suggest too, as far as reducing expenses, well, I got to put money in a 401k plan or whatever. Let me tell you something. I think the new 401k plan is living nearby people who know how to grow things, fix things, and build things. That's the new 401k plan. Because I don't know about you, but I'm not trusting the Fed to fix things. I'm not trusting the stock market to fix things. I'm certainly not trusting on Biden to fix things. And so actually, when we look at return to investment and true wealth, I would suggest I would rather have a portfolio of nearby friends who knew how to grow things, fix things, and build things than a 401k plan. And so let's invest in those kinds of things. All right. Number two, reduce digital participation. I have never had a smartphone. I fly so much now. I have really high status on American now. I get first class upgrades all the time, and so I'm in there first class flight or so back, and the guy sitting next to me, and he's there on his smartphone. The flight's delayed, right? So we're going to miss our connection, and so he's here wrestling with it. I'm just sitting there reading my magazine. They'll take care of me when I get there. It's cool, And he's all, and the phone won't connect, and he's got all these issues and all this stuff. And it struck me in that moment, I'll bet I am the only executive pro platinum American Airlines flyer that doesn't have a smartphone. So, I ought to write the president of the company, You want to feature some, weird guy, So, I don't have a smartphone. I don't want somebody to track me. I don't want all the stuff that goes back. No, I don't have an Alexa. I don't have all this stuff. I am a true Mayberry RFD throwback. And I don't intend to get one. I'm hanging there, people want to, this thing, I don't even know how to get the messages off of it. So the message board's been full for 3 years. And I can't get any messages. I don't text. It's a phone. I use it as a phone. I call people. But I don't let them call me because I don't answer it. But I just find this dependency and enslavement on this digital, these smartphones to be, and I don't think it's a sin to have a smartphone. Fortunately, I have a staff of a lot of young people. They have smartphones. That's how I get by without a smartphone. Okay, if I didn't have smart people around me on staff, I'll agree. Okay, but man, if you can reduce and use other things. I like paper. I carry books with me when I go and travel. But you don't have to turn it off. But when you take off, you don't have to. It's great. You don't have to put in a sign in, push on button. If the power goes out, you can still read your book. Write checks, pay cash. Write checks and pay cash. Okay. We don't need to use digital all the time. Quit auto pay. Man, I don't want anybody dipping into my checking account, pulling stuff out automatically. I'd rather write 40 checks a month than have 40 businesses pulling money out of my, are you with me? I mean, we say we don't like it, and we say we don't like the man, and then most of us, we just, it's the accepted convenient thing to do. I mean, we get pushback all the time from, businesses that we, patronize. Can't you make, no, we're going to write you a check. So I'm going to write you a check. No video games. Do you know, when Tim was talking, man, what a great talk. I couldn't help but, and Tag, I couldn't help but remember a stat that I just read recently. It said the average American male between 25 and 35 years old right now spends 20 hours a week playing video games. The average American male, 25 to 35, which arguably is the most virulent, high physical energy time of a man, all right? I'll just leave it right there. I don't know if they've done it with people who identify as men or not, but anyway, if male is on your birth certificate, I'm digging my hole bigger. Okay, but the point is, imagine what the average American male between 25 and 35 could do with 20 hours a week that would be more valuable than playing a video game. So, we buy books. We don't buy Kindles. We like paper. In fact, we got to cut more trees. It'll reduce the fire hazard. We subscribe, Teresa and I subscribe to paper media. So we get a physical newspaper. We get physical magazines. And yes, I have filing cabinets. I can talk to you about how do you file stuff another time. But I have an incredibly extensive, so learn in college debate, where you have 5,000 pieces of evidence. You've got to be able to put your hands on one every 2 seconds. So I've got this wonderful filing system, but it's paper, and my young people, my apprentices and the stewards, they're interested in a topic. Go up there, pull the outline, pull the file. This neat manila folder full of all sorts of stuff about paramagnetic rock. All the stuff that I've been interested in forever. You want to see all the interesting architecture, construction techniques that I've ever come across in my lifetime. It's all there in the file. And it's paper. You don't need a password. You don't have to push an on button to go in. It works. All right, number 3, abandon woke. Especially in business. All right? I know a lot of people here, part of our self-reliance, part of getting away from that, weekly, what we call the golden change, which is a weekly or a bi-weekly paycheck, right? I mean, I left it September 24, 1982. Walked out of that newspaper office, and not a single person in my life thought I was making a good decision. Not a single person. No friends, no relatives, no acquaintances, no nothing. Everybody thought it was the most foolish thing they'd ever heard. But it got me out of the golden chains of that paycheck, working for somebody else. So especially many of us who are trying to start our businesses, you don't want to find people that are different than you. Now, I don't mean different in skill level. And I don't mean if you're an introvert, you don't want an extrovert, okay? I'm not talking about personality types. I'm not talking about skill levels. I'm talking about people who share your worldview. You don't want to be fighting your team. Trust me, you can come to Polyface. I hope all of you will. You're welcome. You can come anytime. We have a 24/7, 365 open door policy. Anyone can come from anywhere in the world, anytime, to see anything, anywhere, unannounced. Okay? That's our commitment to transparency. But you will not find somebody on our team that votes for Biden. I don't have time for it. I just don't have time for it. Okay? If we're going to get together and have a meeting and start brainstorming about things, we're not going to be that weird, okay? Who wants to fight with your team? Now, if you're an ardent Biden supporter here, and that's who you want on your team, then do that. Okay? My point is to be worldview different in your business and in your closest associates, just to have a different voice, is not functionality, it's chaos. It's chaos, disorder, and frustration. Okay? So partner with people who have an attitude and a worldview like yours. And now that Tim has spoken, I'm going to add to my list who doesn't have a poverty worldview. That's a good one, okay? If you come into the job interview and you just say, well, but if, go on, okay? What we want are people who enjoy meritocracy and performance as the criteria. So in our business, we have no hourly employees. Nobody's an hourly employee. Well, how do you do an hourly employee? Hourly employees are tension waiting to happen. The employer never thinks they're getting a full break, and the employee thinks they're kicking tail and nobody appreciates them. And so what we have are memorandums of understanding of agreement where we have independent contractors or salaried with clearly identified expectations, and all of our projects, all of our needs are identified by value by doing time motion studies. So how much is gutting a chicken worth? How much is gathering a dozen eggs worth? How much is moving a set of pigs worth? And so we have all this articulated so that all of our people are not hourly, but they're performance oriented. You get $8 a day for taking care of a group of pigs. You get $1 a dozen for putting away a dozen eggs. You get, $1.50 a chicken for gutting her. Whatever. I have a friend that was, she came down to Thanksgiving. She always put the turkey in the oven, and she always called it a ham. I said, well, how do you know that turkey was a ham? She says, oh, anything that goes in the oven's a ham. But this completely changes our relationship, because now we're working with fellow risk takers. We have enough unfairness in life. It's not fair for me to take all the financial risk and run the business, and you just show up, punch a time clock, and leave in a day. Okay, I need you to step into my world and share risk with me. If you don't close the door to the chickens and the fox gets them tonight, I lose money and you lose money too, because you didn't close the chickens up. Or if you don't keep the nest boxes clean and now it takes you twice as long to clean the eggs as it does our benchmark, clean up the nest boxes. You with me? You'd be amazed at how much this reduces tension. And you know what? It's self-vetting. We've had young people take a farm as a subcontractor. We lease several farms in the area as well. So we have these young people take these farms. And so imagine you've got this kind of opportunity sheet. Well, I'll do 3,000 broilers, an egg mobile, one herd of cows, and 3 groups of pigs. Okay, and they build their compensation plan. Okay, and the end of the summer, end of the season, they come. Boy, this just doesn't work. I mean, I just can't make any money. It's just no good. Bye-bye. Next year, another young person comes through our program. I want to take that farm. Okay. Same package, same everything. Get to the end of the year. Man, I didn't know you could make so much money farming. This is unbelievable. How do you do this? What's the difference between the two people? Character. Yeah. One got up and got with it. One wanted to have 5 cups of coffee before they went out and moved the chickens in the morning. And sit there on the computer and try to fix everybody's problems. So the beauty of this is people fire themselves. I don't have to fire anybody. It either works or it doesn't. And we also want to really encourage complementary side hustles. So if anybody has an idea, we want them to know if it's a complimentary idea, we want to make sure that you can have it. And all of this reduces the human resources risk, the HR risk. Number 4, and see, these are all anti-trends. That's what I'm trying to, that's my template here. Number 4 is exit the city. We've got everybody thinking, oh, the city's where it's at. Shiny lights, glitter and opportunity. And around the world, the cities are growing and growing and growing, and the all that. Folks have been going to the city as a place of opportunity. My family left the city. Clear, we came to the farm in 1961. My mom and dad did. I mean, everybody else, with people with business degrees like he did. And, mom was a school teacher. The place is the place. The city is the place to go. But in 1961, that was really against the trend. And I'm so thankful I grew up in a maverick home. The blessing of my life is that we truly grew up embracing the unorthodox in our home. And the fact that a neighbor called us a typhoid Mary or somebody thought we were nuts didn't really matter. So I grew up with, these straight-laced, church people religiously, and all of our farm friends were, dope-smoking, hippie, beaded, bearded, braless. Back to the Landers. I just thought that was normal. Then I got older and found it was pretty unusual. But there's a growing intuition today that when the wheels fall off, you don't want to be in the city. And everybody's, people are pushing to the city. No. If we're going to build immunity to the collapse, let's get out of the city. In fact, in the last 2 years, I've had 4, 5 calls from billionaires. Not millionaires, billionaires. Private jets, billionaires, calling me saying, can you help me set up an agrarian bunker? Now, they don't use the word agrarian bunker. They say, a safe place, a haven, something. What they want is an agrarian bunker. Okay? Believe me. And there's an old saying, the rich know things. They do. They run around in circles. And I'm sitting here thinking, wow, if these billionaires are starting to become aware of this, maybe it's time for us peasants to actually take a look at this too. And they all understand that if things go down, in fact, one of them even asked me, he said, could you please give me a definition of what wheels fall off means? I mean, I thought, don't you have somebody on your staff that can write you a program for this? And so I said, well, I don't have a spontaneous answer. I've learned those kind of things. You don't want to just shoot from the hip. You want to be a little more. So I went to my staff, or went to the team. I said, hey, this guy asked, what do you think? What do you think? So we talked about it. You can make a long list, but we came up with 3 things. You can't get grain, can't get electricity, can't get fuel. Fuel, electricity, and grain. Okay? And that's enough. So anyway, we need to be reversing the wealth movement. Wealth has been moving to immunize ourselves against the system. We need to be moving wealth and population movement from what it's doing, from country to city, and move it from city to country. And I would suggest that includes, developing an idea of what is real wealth. What is real wealth? Real wealth is food, energy, water, shelter, and skill. That's real wealth. It's physical. It's the real thing. So exit the city. What's the next before COVID, I would have said, what's the next vaccination against the system? But you can't even use that word anymore. So,
That's okay.
so what, you know what I'm saying? What's the next way to immunize your way? I mean, now we can't even use immunological and vaccine in the same sequence because it's all screwy now. All right. The next one is build an independent home. If you go around and you look at all these developments, these McMansions and all these housing developments going up and everything, it's amazing to me that as supposedly close as we are, 40, 50 years, depending on what, person you read after, we're going to all become crispy critters because cows are going to burp and fart and we're all going to die in about 50 years. It's amazing to me that we're still building thousands and thousands of stick houses. Have you seen them? Not a single solarium on the south side. No water catchment. No edible landscaping. I mean, there's not an apple tree in a mile. No alternative heat source they don't even have fireplaces in them anymore. A lot of them hardly have a kitchen. I mean, the new kitchen is a kitchen nook. Who needs a kitchen when you got Hot Pockets and Lunchables? And so it's just amazing to me that, look, if I really believed that we're going to all be crispy critters in 50 years, I'd be wanting to build some eco villages and eco homes and independent. All right, so what does the independent home look like? Water. All of our roofs should be guttered. Then in the first session, somebody didn't know what a gutter was. It's the thing that catches the water off your roof, a gutter. Okay. Should be guttered into a cistern. If you go to Australia today, even in Sydney and Melbourne, every single house has a cistern. And they paint murals on them. They use them to espalier your fruit trees and grow cucumber vines up. They put trellises on them. They're hidden, and they're all covered with vines, so they stay nice and cool. But every single house in Australia right now, you can buy a cistern. A gallon of water storage will cost you about 25 cents per gallon of water in Australia. In the U.S., it's $1 a gallon. Why? Because we don't have a cistern industry. If we had a cistern industry, if everybody had a lawnmower, had a cistern, they'd be about a quarter as expensive. Because, there'd be distribution, there'd be all sorts of innovation. And if you really want to make one of the neatest houses I ever was in Dave Schaefer of Featherman. I'm going to use his equipment tomorrow. Featherman, he built a straw bale house in Missouri several years back. Went and visited him. It was the coolest thing. So they guttered the house. They had to go in a cistern, but the problem is you can't use the water when it's down underground. You got to get the water up, in a faucet and where you can use it. So what they did, they had a bicycle. They hooked up the little water pump. And in 10 minutes of bicycling a week, 10 minutes riding a bicycle, they could pump the water up into IBC totes up in the attic that gravity flowed to run all the water in the house. So there was no pump, no relays, no pressure tank. There's a lot of energy lost in a pressure tank maintaining that coiled spring. That's why cities have water towers. Because, so you can dribble water in and then everybody comes home, takes a shower, you can get it down. By the way, do you know what every municipal hydrology water engineer is trained to design municipal water systems for one event? There's one event that is the number one water event in the United States. Does anybody know what it is? The Super Bowl halftime. All right, now here's the bonus one. Here's the bonus. What was it before the Super Bowl? Thanksgiving? No. World Series? No. All good guesses. You're getting warmer. Johnny Carson. No, it was before Johnny Carson. The end of the I Love Lucy program. That was the single biggest bathroom event in the U.S. until the Super Bowl. But you know, the independent home is a big deal. A solarium on the south wall. I mean, there is not a house, I mean, unless you're down along the coast, the southern coast of the U.S., but anywhere else, every single house, every single building ought to have a solarium on it. Not only for passive heat, but also to grow vegetables in the wintertime. I mean, there's no reason to be shipping mescaline mix from California to Maine in February. Every house in Maine, every building, every business, every church, every structure should have a solarium on it to grow its own. And if we did, we wouldn't have to send the trucks. We wouldn't have to have the asphalt. We wouldn't have to spend the fuel to send stuff from California to Maine in the wintertime. Energy. You know, we ought to have wood stove backups or solar panels, a living roof. I mean, that's a great permaculture concept. You know, build our roof so we've got 12 inches of soil and vermiculite on top. And you grow your food up on the roof. You have your cistern, you have your bicycle pump, and you can shut down your fitness room and your exercise by just once a week. You know, you ride your bicycle, and you pump the water from your cistern up onto the living roof on top to water your vegetables. The cucumbers go down over the windows. You reach out your bedroom window and grab a cucumber for breakfast. You know, I mean, I do talks at universities. You know, they want me to talk about sustainable agriculture. Say, hey, you want a sustainable university? Let's divide the university in quads here. You know, sector 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Everybody's got it on their smartphone. Well, we're not going to have smart. We have it on a map, and every morning you get up and you got we got a phone call that says, you know, the strawberries in quadrant 3 are ready to pick, and all the students go over, you know, pick strawberries in quadrant 3, and the apples in quadrant 2 are ready, you know, and the students just graze from class to class, and you know, that's the. And you have living roofs on all the campuses, you know, and the watermelons and the vines grow down over them. The kids reach out the door windows and grab a cucumber or a watermelon or something, you know, and they're squash and they're eat. And you don't have to have any air conditioning because all that evapotranspiration from the vegetation sucks all the heat out of the building in the summer, and it stays cool without any HVAC. So these are the kind of things when we start creating an independent home. I just feel like all the construction I see is moving us toward more dependency instead of less dependency. That's my point. How about sewer? Oh boy, that's always an exciting topic. Trust me, around our house, every single discussion ends up with poop. I mean, because poop drives everything. I mean, it is and you can know a lot about your health by looking at your poop. Okay? Don't look away. Examine it. I mean, that's how we monitor if the cows are happy. You know, there's 3 kinds of cow poop. There's cookies, you know, little cookies. That means it's too fibrous. Not enough sugar. Then there's sheet cake. That's too much sugar. Okay? It's too rich. It's like she's getting Snickers bars. Okay? What you want is a pumpkin pie. Okay? It's round, slightly dipped down in the middle, and right in the middle there's a little blip, you know, where she clutched it off right there at the end, you know.
Okay. Yes. I don't know about anybody else. Who here in chat has a homestead right now? Type Y if you do or N if you don't. Because I can tell you my last 2 days have revolved around sheep poop. What do we got here? Lots of Ys. How many of you do talk about poop on a daily basis? Just out of curiosity. All the time. Yeah. All the time. So. Okay, so we're at the halfway mark. This is a great time to talk about things. Tim, is your audio working?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good. You're just really quiet when you're quiet.
I know. I got a good mic here. It could be the hotel. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway.
Yeah. Josh says, I observe a lot of animal poop, so maybe a homestead of sorts. I have a friend who does a whole presentation on guerrilla gardening, who lives in the city and talks about guerrilla planting things that are edible in the city parks and along the streets, all sorts of stuff. So that is not wrong. Yeah, the dogs eat chicken and duck poop.
Oh, and sometimes their own poop. But anyway, that's a whole nother story.
How did we end up here?
Oh, we're talking about poop. This
We're
is
talking about
awful.
poop. So we did have one question about the paycheck plantation. Somebody asked, have there been many podcasts about the paycheck plantation? Because Joel he starts off by saying, get off the paycheck plantation because they are mining you through taxes. And when you go from earning a paycheck to running a business, you get to take expenses out before your income is calculated, and that means you're paying taxes on less. That's how the tax code is designed.
It's like a cheat code. I had this exact conversation with my one of my twins, Charlotte, the other day. She was asking about what, she goes, I hear you talk about business and what the benefits are, because we were talking about how little income we actually made this year. And I sat down and tried to explain it to her, and I think she got it. But the whole idea, if you work for the man, well, you get so much money, and then they take all the taxes off top of that. But if you work for yourself, you get to spend within reason without breaking the law at all. But you get to spend on all of your expenses, and then you pay taxes on what's left over. It is like the biggest cheat code for success in life, and almost nobody gets it. And it's legal.
Yep, 100%. Okay. Do we have a success story today from Self Reliance Festival?
Yes, you asked me, and I was the first fellow that come to mind was Backwoods Butcher, or Kyle. He ended up coming to his plans changed 2 or 3 times, and he ended up doing the most incredible, I don't even know what you want to call it. It was like, he does these live streams on TikTok where he cuts animals down and that kind of stuff, and then he gets banned sometimes. Well, he did this in person at Self Reliance Festival, and all I heard afterwards, of course, I was busy chatting with other folks the entire time, but I just kept hearing from people, this is incredible. He needs to do it. So what does he do? Of course, as soon as he leaves, like we all do leaving from Self Reliance Festival, we get all excited. And he's doubled up to do that more often now. He's looking at planning local events for himself, and the cool thing is not just freedom related events. He's looking at doing it locally and going out to homesteader conferences, but say county fairs and doing that kind of thing. I'm blown away. And he's at the cusp of becoming something huge. And it all really got him motivated and lit a fire under his rear at Self Reliance Festival.
Yeah, I think it's because he was doing the demonstration after having months of creating videos about his trade, about butchering. And he has had to think about, how do I make butchering animals entertaining as part of that. And he's put a lot of humor into what he does on TikTok.
Yes.
And a lot of thought into the visuals. So when he did his demonstration at Self Reliance Festival in October, he was like entertaining and teaching, which you should do, but it's very easy to fall into this rut. It's like, first you do this and then you do that. He's telling stories, he's making jokes, and it's a show at that point. And that's a lot of how Joel Salatin's chicken demonstration went the next day when we did the processing class. So I teach processing classes. I have nothing to learn from taking a processing class, right? Wrong. I learned 2 or 3 things about processing chickens to make myself more efficient, which are now part of my annual chicken class. And that's why you go watch other people do things.
I mean, go to if you've ever gone to tactical response, for instance. I believe at least at one time it was part of their process to go out and take courses from other instructors in other facilities every single year. And if you're not doing it, you're not doing it right.
Yeah, 100%. So we actually have another set of butchers coming this time. There's a 2-day butchering class, the 4th and 5th, with hand hewn farm, which are two guys out of Ohio who ended up growing their animals and needing to learn how to butcher, self-taught, started teaching classes, and they really went down the path of curing meats. So making different charcuterie. So we have like day one is process the pig to prepare it for day two, which is cure the pig.
Nice.
And then they bring stuff from former classes that they've taught that they've cured on Friday night for a charcuterie tasting. So that is a pretty darn cool little program there. And that's just inspired by, you take your journey on a homestead and you take a risk and you figure out how to turn things upside down on the expense income thing with the taxes. And then you also start entertaining people like Kyle did. And next thing you know, you're teaching people how to make different kinds of cured meats. And this is beyond bacon and ham, guys. It's beyond bacon. That sounds like fake bacon grown in a lab, doesn't it? Yeah. Anyway, so what else do you want to say before we go on to the next one? Anything from the comments, guys? Kyle talked to John's chickens behind him like he talks to his own pigs. Yeah.
Yeah, he does a great job. Yeah. And one thing I'll say is that this was great to actually be able to sit down and listen to all of Joel's presentation. Like I said, I might have got about 8 minutes in at the actual live event. And that is, you figure out what you want from these events. If what you want is to go and listen to all of the top-notch speakers, make sure you do it. Do you want to go and meet folks in person and sit down and chat about it? Make sure you do it. Do you want to go and sell a bunch of stuff at your vendor's table? Just make sure you do it. That's all.
Yeah. It's Backwoods Butcher's 605, right?
I think so. Pretty sure.
I think he always has the 605 there, which is the area code he's from, which is in New Hampshire. So somebody was asking how to follow Backwoods Butcher. So it's Backwoods Butcher 605 on TikTok. I think he's on Instagram too. I'm not sure. And he gets banned. He had a recent discussion with some vegans.
I saw
like
that.
A reasoned discussion with vegans. It wasn't like, hey, let's fight. But and he's 603. Sorry, Backwoods Butcher 603. I don't know where the 5 came from.
That's all right. I was going to see if I could find his link here and share it, but I haven't got there yet. So try.
So these are and the other thing that struck me in this was, what was it? I actually wrote it in the comments because I didn't want to forget it. And it's when we talked about redefining wealth. And he said it's food, shelter, water, and skills. That's redefining wealth. When you have those things covered, you care a lot less about how much income you have. Money helps those things happen, but at the same time, if you have them covered, then if supply chains turn off for a while or whatever, you've got it covered. And that's one of the cool things about being on a homestead is you get more of those things covered. And Ryan just threw the link in the comment section. Okay. Well, do you want to go back and hear what else Joel has to say?
I think so. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, let's do it. I know I was supposed to tell you guys to buy tickets during that break. I didn't, because you get it.
Buy tickets.
Buy tickets. Yep, buy tickets. Play the video.
Okay, so, Sir Albert Howard, when he wrote in an agricultural testament. Sir Albert Howard is the godfather of modern scientific composting. He wrote an agricultural testament in 1943 and basically brought the composting method to the world. And he has a whole chapter in there on his city of the future. And he called it a diamond city. A diamond city. And he had, so in a diamond shape, okay, with an acre in the middle, 25 houses in a diamond. Why a diamond? So every one of them would have a southern exposure. So they'd have a lot of glass and get passive solar. This is 1943, folks. Okay? So no house would be in front of another one and block the sun. And then the center of the 25 house was 1 acre, employing a master gardener that would take everybody's night soil, compost it, grow their vegetables, and it would be a completely 25 household self-sustaining thing with no water, no sewer, no utilities in a diamond shape. He said, this is the house of the future. He said by the 1950s, the world will realize the folly of putting poop into water. Well, that didn't happen. So we can have compost. We can have outhouses. The one that I really like now is the biogas idea. You know, where you have the toilet right over the digester, and the digester then you catch the methane off the digester, and the air hose from the methane goes straight to your kitchen and runs your stove. Every human generates enough methane with their own excrement every day to cook all your own food. That's a fact. So, there's a lot of innovation we do there. All right. Next one. I'm going to run out of time. Okay, number six. Abandon the health system. Abandon the health system. All right. I mean, everybody, my goodness, everybody's trying to figure out how to pay for all this health care. Well, the first way to abandon the health system is to get healthy. Get healthy. I mean, wouldn't it? I was waiting all during COVID. Uh-oh, now we just got censored on whatever this is going. I was waiting for one day. I said, Fauci, everybody loves Fauci, right? Fauci, can't you just step to the microphone one day and say this? Just imagine. Today, we're nothing we've been doing has been working. So we're going to do an experiment. And we're going to do an experiment for 1 month. America, are you with me? Can we do an experiment for 1 month? You know. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do. First of all, we're not going to eat any junk food for a month. We're not going to drink any Coke. We're not going to have any Mountain Dew. We're not going to have any Snickers bars. We're not going to go to McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, Burger King. We're not going to eat any junk food for a month. We're not going to eat Lunchables, Hot Pockets, and squeezable Velveeta cheese. All right. We're going to, you know what? Nobody gets enough sleep. So we're all going to sleep for 8 hours a night. Set your clocks, get on a routine, sleep 8 hours a night. Don't stay up late watching the TV, you know, shut down the Netflix, go to bed. Sleep for 8 hours. Man, we need more sun. We need that vitamin D. So everybody get out in the sun for 20 minutes a day. Take as many clothes off as you want. Get out in the sun for 20 minutes a day. Get some vitamin D. And, you know, one of the best body's detoxifiers is sweat. So work up a sweat 20 minutes a day. You can run in place. You can do push-ups. You can do yoga. You can, you know, get up a backyard game of football, split firewood. I don't care, but sweat for 20 minutes a day. And then, we're all dehydrated. I want everybody to drink a half a gallon of water a day. Okay? Drink a half a gallon of water a day. Cleanse, you know, get that fourth element of water, Jello, going in your body. And, you know, and we're going to all, so we quit junk food, we're going to all cook from scratch for a month. We're going to shop the outside of the supermarket and get actual food with, you know, that just says squash. That just says orange. You know, not going to be any monosodium glutamate. None of this stuff, okay? And we're going to cook from scratch. We're going to get in our kitchens and use them. That's going to be fun. And then the news is really depressing. I'm Fauci. I'm depressing. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. For every 1 hour you spend watching the news, you have to spend 2 hours watching belly jiggling comedy to offset the hour of news. Laughter does better than the medicine. We're going to laugh. We're going to laugh COVID right in. And then finally, last part of the experiment, America. I'm still channeling Fauci here. Okay? Last part of the experiment is make a list because vengeance and stress and hateful thoughts are the number one suppressant of the immune system. So what we're going to do is take out a piece of paper and write down all the people who have wronged you, screwed you over, you're mad at, angry at, gave you the wrong, end of the stick. Number one, Fauci. No, but all the people that you just really, I'd like to go kick them in the shins, write their names down on a list, okay? All right? And then forgive them. Okay? Now, America, let's do that for 1 month and see what happens. What do you think would have happened? Pfizer Pharmaceutical would have lost a lot of money. Here's the thing, folks. When the wheels fall off, one of the things, the main thing that you don't want to be when the wheels fall off is sick. You don't want to be the one lying in there on the bed. Hey, can you grab me and take me out too? So, create your health kit. How do you create your health kit? Well, you've got to be intentional. Like Tag was saying about the community, you got to be intentional. Or find somebody who knows. Look, I don't have time. I wish I listen to these herbalists, and man, they've got all these tinctures and concoctions, and I just stand there that is so cool. But you know what? I got to figure out how to move cows and build electric fence and build sheds and make compost. Maybe it's a cop-out, maybe it's an excuse. I just don't feel like I have time to become an herbalist. But you know what? I can develop friendships with people who are. A few years ago, I was building a shed, and I got tennis elbow. My elbow swelled up. It was bad. Had an herbalist friend. She said, put a comfrey poultice on it. What? Comfrey? Sure, I got comfrey. You should grow some herbs. Okay? So I went and I got some comfrey leaves. I, mashed them all, put them on there, put some saran wrap around, and just, in 1 day, it was gone. Had a planter's wart on my foot. And being a man, you don't go anywhere for this stuff, you just suffer it. So it got to be bad. I got it at Bugs Island doing a stupid camping trip with somebody, and crazy. Anyway, so I'm walking, and this thing's getting big. It's the size of a golf ball, and I'm limping around. Another herbalist. Put comfrey on it. So I went out and got some comfrey leaves, put them in my sock in the morning, stepped on it. About the second day, when I put them in there, it started stinging. I said, stinging's good. Stinging's good. I'm not kidding. In a month, that whole big planter's wart just fell right out of my foot. All nice new skin, pretty as anything. Okay? Folks, create your health kit with your own knowledge, with people you know. There's herbs, tinctures, all sorts of wonderful things. Seek alternatives. There's red light therapy. There's hyperbaric chambers now. There's supplements. There's all sorts of cool stuff, all right? Some of it's snake oil. That's fine. Try it. And a lot of this stuff that's gentle kind of ancient wisdom doesn't work for everything. It doesn't work for everything, okay? Yeah, and you can play around with your diet, become a carnivore for a while if you want to. But the point is, what works, a lot of these gentle, historic therapies don't work for every single thing every time. But fortunately, they don't have the negative. They don't have all the the bad stuff that might happen. All right. So if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Then try something else. Try something else. Okay. Doesn't always work. Build your immunity. Build your immunity by reducing the number of hours you spend in sterility. Now, I don't mean in sexual sterility. I mean being sterile. Okay. Wash your hands about a quarter of the number of times you do. Get your hands in some dirt. Finland now leads the world in connecting kids that grow up in cow manure versus kids that grow up in the city, and the kids that grow up out in the stable, in the dairy barn, little infants, in little carts, and they're reaching over and getting everything goes in the mouth, right? And those kids are incredibly healthy compared to the city kids. So I actually literally just had a meeting with a guy last week. I've been throwing this idea out for entrepreneurs for like 3 years, ever since I found out about all this from Finland, and I said, there's $1 million opportunity here for somebody to make like a permeable bladder that we'd fill with farm soil and compost and have a subscription service into the urban sector, so people could come up and bump and breathe and like powder their noses on this farm compost to be immunological. Those of you who know me know I routinely drink out of the cow trough. Cows are out here. I get down with the cow and I drink out of the cow. Why? To feed my microbiome, and I never get sick. Now I don't want to knock on wood here. I don't want to, but that's the way you build your immune system. Drink from your stock tank. In fact, we just at the farm, we just hosted the National Association of Nutritional Professionals, and the executive director came up to me afterwards. She says, "Oh, we got our new fundraiser idea. We're gonna start selling cow water from your stock tank, okay, for immunological function, and there's no regulations on cow water." Number seven, quit the supermarket. Everybody's going to the supermarket. Where do you buy food if you don't go to the supermarket? Well, you find farmers. You go counter. You immunize yourself against the system. If you don't want the system supermarket, well then find your farmer. What kind of a farmer? You want a farmer who uses compost for fertility, that does a real carbon economy. You want a farmer who doesn't use any pharmaceuticals. You want a farmer that has 2 generations on the farm, so that it's a stable farm. If a business only has workers from 1 generation, it's very vulnerable, very unstable. So you want a 2-generation place. Find your local supply. Find your community of food provenance. Does the farm have a community of local supply? When Putin invaded Ukraine and the wheat went up and all this stuff, we just laughed because we get all our GMO-free grains from local farmers right there that we know. We've built that community over time. We didn't have a grain mill when GMOs came in, so I went out looking for somebody that had one. I found one on a Mennonite farm in Cobwebs. It was a 1950s mill. I said, would you guys be willing to mill up some GMO-free grain for us? Turned out I got in the middle of a family fight. Grandpa built the mill. The son wanted to tear it down because they weren't using it, and so I'm never going to get done, Nicole. So the son said, "I'd be love to use that mill." So we said, "Okay, start running it." And so he started running it, and that mill, Sunrise Farms, now 20 years later, services a 200-mile radius and is keeping thousands of acres out of GMOs in our region, selling GMO-free feedstock to farmers. So that's a good community story. It's a good community story. Yeah. Okay. Shorten your food chain. Okay. Find your local producer. Buy direct. No middleman. We can now ship We do ship nationwide at Polyface. Shameless plug there. If you don't know where to go, you can get it directly from us. But build it direct. Don't get middlemen involved. Don't get a bunch of warehouses involved. Go straight to the farm. You can grow your own food. You can do edible landscaping, stacking, multi-species, season extension, okay, greenhouses, solariums, southern aspects, floating gardens in ponds using water as a mass. The leeward side of a pond is frost-free. Put your strawberries and peach trees there. Develop your animals with infrastructure that's mobile, modular, and management intensive, okay? Number 8, abandoned convenience food. Abandoned convenience food. Everybody's going to a convenience. My biggest prophetic blunder many years ago, I do media interviews. Say, where do you see the food system in 30 years? So, everybody's going to be in their kitchen. They're going to be doing all this stuff. No. What we got was Hot Pockets and Lunchables. Your freedom is only as good as your participation. Your freedom is only as good as your participation. And one of the best ways to make sure that you have a food freedom is by cultivating domestic culinary arts. I can remember when you couldn't buy boneless, skinless breast at the supermarket. Today, half our customers don't know a chicken has bones. I mean, like, they think we go out and pick boneless, skinless breast off a peach tree, Folks, we've been told a lie that if you'll just let us take care of you, you'll have more time to go on cruises, watch Netflix, and the football game. And then suddenly you have a black swan, like COVID or like Putin invaded Ukraine, and suddenly we realize, convenience was slavery. And we realize we got to get out of that. Get in your kitchen. Make your own convenience. Pre-cooked chicken, leftovers. The signature of people who get it is, are you eating leftovers? Do your own packaging. No single servicing. And of course, the kitchen's a great place to teach kids for chemistry, fractions, all that sort of thing. Number 9, quickly, abandoned child frenzy. Folks, we got this cultish fetish in our country that our kids suddenly have to be involved in every single thing possible. Listen, if you can't get your kids as excited about life from salamanders and frogs and building dams in the creek as they are from going to the ballet practice, you got problems. Okay? So how do we get our kids to have self-worth, to not want to take fentanyl, to not want to commit suicide, to feel good about themselves? Self-worth comes from being successful at meaningful tasks. Being successful at meaningful tasks. So we want them to have chores, all right? We want them to homeschool, any kind of co-ops, nature schools, online curriculums, whatever, anything but the institutional classroom. Substitute instead chores, entrepreneurship, and authentic responsibility. Finally, number 10, let's abandon fear. Our culture is running pell-mell toward fear. Paranoia grips our country. I feel like our country's like a wasp nest that's just been disturbed, and all those wasps, and everybody's angry at everybody. We have dystopia. Everyone's frazzled and short-tempered. Let's us be strategic, commonsensical, systematic, and embrace faith. Embrace faith first that we have enough. We have enough time. We have enough talent. We have enough ability. We have enough resources. We're not about to run out of everything. Our nest here is not a reluctant partner. It is an embracing lover. Nature is not a reluctant partner to be put in a half Nelson. I'm going to make you get your... No. It's a lover to be embraced and caressed in the right places. That's the truth. We can make good decisions. We don't have to be making stupid decisions. And we can make strategic preparation and participation. So finally, a couple parting thoughts. Can I do this, Nicole? Do I have 2 minutes?
You're good.
Okay. Parting thoughts. I'm gonna instigate the mob against you if you don't give me 2 minutes. Okay. Then we'll be a true democracy. As far as I'm concerned, any politician that uses democracy should be automatically eliminated. This is a republic, it's not a democracy. If I had office, I'd be trying to get people not to vote instead of getting people to vote. As far as I'm concerned, if you're not giving more to the government than you're receiving, you shouldn't be allowed to vote, period. All right, number one, I got a couple of these, really quick. Number one, whatever you've been putting off is probably the most important thing you need to do. Think about that. Whatever you've been putting off is probably the most important thing you need to do. Number two, right now, I give you permission to dream. We need permission to dream. When we're little kids, 5, 6, 7 years old, I mean, you know, we can make umbrellas and guns and out of a stick. But then we want to please mom and dad. We want to please the Sunday school teacher, the preacher, the teacher, the first employer, and then you want to please somebody to get married to them, and then you want to please the in-laws, and by the time we're in our mid-20s, we've lost the capacity to dream because our life is consumed with other people's expectations. Are you with me? So my mentor, Alan Nation, used to say, if you want the true measure of yourself, who you really are, your core yourself, go back to when you were 10 years old. 10 years old is when you're old enough to know who you were, what you like to do, but not old enough to have any responsibilities. It's the perfect sweet spot in life where you could be the truest you of yourself. Don't do it right now. I know we're going to do other things, but sometime in the next 3 or 4 days, get by yourself. Take a half hour, an hour, and just, I don't care if you get in a yoga position, a dark room, in your sleep, whatever, pray. Become 10 again. Become 10 again. And free yourself to dream. Number 3, make a roadmap of where you want to go. This has been alluded to by already today, but I'm just going to reiterate it. Nobody will go on a trip with you if you don't know where you're going. And it's hard to go somewhere you haven't strategically written down a plan to get there. Okay? The GPS will not get you to your life success. You can't plug in my destination. You have to make that destination. And you have to make a roadmap to get there. And finally, and in closing, we've all heard this saying, if it's worth doing, probably some matriarch in our history, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing. It was wrong. Wrong. If it's worth doing poorly first. Thanksgiving's coming up, okay? We got the family get together, the whole family, right? They're all together. All the crazy uncle, whatever. All right. The newest little addition, Emily Sue, she's like 9, 10 months old. She's crawling around on the floor, and the adults are, yak, 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 talking. And little Emily Sue, she comes up to the, chair leg, and she kind of gets a hold of it. She kind of gets herself up, and she's kind of standing there toddling. Probably her mom sees her first and says, oh, look, Emily, she stood up. It's the first time she stood up. And, of course, all the adults they immediately look at Emily Sue, and she looks up at everybody. Everybody's looking at her. She's terrified, loses her grip, flops down her diaper, right? What do all the adults do? We got a different house. In our house, we all get up around her and say, well, Emily Sue, if you can't walk any better than that, just quit. Because if it's worth doing right. No, the truth is, we don't do anything right first. We do it poorly first. We don't walk well first. We don't talk well first. We don't poop well. I guess we do. We just don't know where to put it. We don't do anything well first. So when you leave here and the cows are out and the sourdough mother fails and your first attempt at making butter doesn't work, or whatever it is, okay? I want you to go to your bathroom mirror. Most of us have a mirror in our bathroom, right? Look at yourself. Hike up your diapers. And look at yourself and say, you know what? If it's worth doing poorly first. Because that's the truth. There's no reason to be intimidated by stuff that we don't know how to do, or we feel like it's over our headlights or whatever. Just jump in, proceed, do it. Mastery, Michael Jordan said for every basket he made in a basketball game, he missed 10,000 in practice. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing poorly first. Now may all your carrots grow long and straight. May your radishes be large but not pithy. May tomato blossom end rot affect your Monsanto neighbor's tomatoes. May the coyotes be struck blind at your pasture chickens. May all of your culinary experiments be delectably palatable. May the rain fall gently on your fields, the wind be always at your back. May your children rise and call you blessed. And may we all make our nest a better place than we inherited. God bless you. Thank you for letting me visit with you. Thank you.
Amazing. Joel showed up, you guys. Woo! No doubt. We waited and it was worth the wait, right? Amazing. Awesome. Well, we're going to do about 10 minutes of questions, but instead of me running around to all of you guys, I'm going to have you guys come to me. And like we stated in the beginning, John Willis was the one who said it. He's like, if you don't ask the question, take advantage of the knowledge that is here. You have Joel Salatin for 10 minutes. So who's going to come up and ask the first question? Come in.
Don't be bashful.
Come on.
Every single question is
all right.
Important.
Hi, I love that speech, and I love the part about the diamond developments from way back when. And did you say what was the word that you said that they would take and compost a master gardener?
Night soil.
Night soil.
That's your poop.
Okay.
That is a nice way to say poop.
Okay, and you said we knew how to poop as infants, but we didn't know where to put it. Most of us still don't know where to put it. Can you speak to that a little bit on the details?
Yeah, so if you start looking at alternative sewage systems and how to capture the fertility value or all the fertility, you can go down a lot of rabbit holes really quick, okay? And so far, most of this has not been yet censored off of YouTube. So, even though it's kind of dirty language. But there are all sorts of systems. I mean, one of the neatest I ever saw was in the Netherlands. It was an eco-village of 35 houses, all with living roofs. One guy had 6 sheep, and he mowed all the house roofs. Okay, that was his contribution, okay, with the sheep. And then they ate lamb. And all their sewer went into like a half-acre made wetland with pebbles. It had a bladder in it, and the water discharged into the creek. So they actually had to monitor the water all the time. And it had cattails and daylilies and stuff that grew voraciously in the nutrient-dense pebble bladder. Okay, and they used that for composting, so they could all use that to keep the fertility up in their gardens and all that. And you could drink the water coming out the end of it. So, that's probably the prettiest system I've ever seen in the world. But there in South Africa, I saw trickle towers where you have a dual septic. So this is a water-based system. One of the nice things about water is that it is easier to clean. You don't have to put in a scoop for poop, and you don't have all this stuff, okay? You don't have splatter in an edge. Anyway, there is something nice about water, okay? And if my wife were here, she would be, yes, there is something nice about water. I mean, I'm telling you what I've seen and what can be done. I don't do it at my house because I want to stay married, okay? So everybody's not on the same pace in the journey, but we are getting ready to put in an uninspected, unlicensed toilet system for our gathering area. And so what I saw in South Africa was a trickle tower. I keep wanting to say tinkle tower. It's a trickle tower. And what they were doing, they were taking a double septic and then taking that gray and putting it down through, this was a tower of, like they went to Lowe's, I don't know if it has Lowe's there, but anyway, had big plastic things with little rock pebbles in them, and the effluent came out of a PVC pipe and dribbled down into this. So it was an aerobic bacterial, aerobic microorganisms. They ate everything up as it trickled through the tower, from this tub to this tub to this tub. They all had holes in them. And there was zero smell, and you could drink the water at the bottom. And then they were using the water. They weren't drinking the water. They were putting it on orchard trees. But the point is, it didn't go into a leach field that you lost all the nutrients and lost everything that was going on. You actually were able to capture. So anyway, there's a lot of cool stuff going on, but of course our orthodox inspection system, building inspector, they don't recognize any of that stuff. So you just have to do it on your own.
Just very quickly, you had mentioned something about a certain side of a pond and it being frost-free. What was that term you used?
The leeward side. So that's a naval term. So it's the non-windward. So if you got a pond and the wind's coming from the westerlies, most of our wind here comes from the westerlies. On the eastern edge of that pond, you've got about a 15-foot frost-free zone. You know how a water vapor comes off a pond in the spring and in the fall, because water is thermal mass. So the air's cold, but the water's warm. So what you have is as the westerlies come across that thermal mass, they warm, and you have about a 15-foot frost-free zone on the downwind side of that pond using the thermal mass. And so stuff that you want to grow, like a fig tree, strawberries, peaches, that are frost prone, you can put in that zone and capture that microclimate.
Thank you.
Quick question about your business side of things and having it work for, in a way, tax shelterness.
Right.
Is there any particular company or corporate setup or business entity setup that you would recommend over the other, like S Corp, LLC?
Yeah,
like,
well,
like
so we have both C Corp. We have a couple of LLCs. I'm not a tax expert by any means, but I do have a very aggressive accountant. My dad was an accountant. Now he passed away 30 years ago, but we have found, you can get wimpy accountants and you can get aggressive accountants. A wimpy accountant is one that everything they do, they want to take it in the IRS favor. An aggressive accountant is a guy, there's a lot of gray area, okay? And they're going to take that gray area in your favor if they can push it to that way. So I think I'm not qualified to give you the ins and outs of a C and LL, S and all this stuff. I mean, there are differences, obviously. I'm not a tax guy to tell you, but what I will tell you is that you need to buddy up with an aggressive accountant who takes gray areas in your favor and not the IRS favor. That's the best advice I can give you, I think.
Thank you.
At least that I'm confident to tell you. Yeah.
All right, one or two more.
First, thanks for sharing your life with us.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it very much. Composting. Have a small place, running just enough birds for eggs for ourselves. Been composting the hay and the straw and all that. And I guess a blessing from improving our soil quality. And I have moles in the garden, voracious. We've moved to raised beds, but what in your experience works really good at stopping these kind of varmints besides active dogs, things like that? Anything?
Yeah, moles in the garden. If you've got a dog, that's probably the best thing that'll get a mole. But I mean, a mole in the lawn is actually a good thing because they're aerators. Yeah, it is a conundrum. But when you do like we did one time and plant 2 rows of peanuts, and the next morning you come out and a molehill goes right down all the rows of peanuts and comes right back, that's not a good friend, okay? And so there's a balance here. We are big believers in raised beds. In fact, high raised beds, like hugelkultur, okay? Yeah, and I don't think you'll have moles in that kind of a setting. I don't think. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But I don't think you're going to have moles in that kind of a setting.
I live in North Alabama, and it's hard-packed yellow clay.
Well, do you have a dog? 2 dogs.
Yes, sir.
Don't feed them.
I got a question about your son's rabbit operation.
Yeah.
I wanted to know if the selling of the meat of that is profitable in and of itself, or is it all the other things? I'm seeing a lot of other rabbit enterprises. What they say is they're making their money selling the pellets, not so much the pelts, and
Okay.
breeders, really.
Yeah. Okay, so the rabbits, yes, the meat is profitable in and of itself. But so there's 3 ways to increase profit. You can either raise your price, reduce your expenses, or increase turnover. Okay, those are the only 3 ways to increase profit. And so so if you can do all 3 of those things, then you're in really good shape. And so by running the weaned bunnies on grass, we cut their feed costs by 75%. That's huge, okay? And then by having a high quality, built up, loyal niche market, we can get a little premium for an unmedicated, a grass-based rabbit. And so, so you start working all those angles. Yeah, great. Okay, thanks for letting me visit with you. Great.
All right. I like that little jingle that Rebecca puts on all our videos.
Does such a great job with this stuff, I tell you. That's why I
I'll tell
hired
you
her
what,
to do an intro.
This webinar series was 9,000 times easier with Rebecca's help. So let's give her a chat room round of applause. Because, yeah. But we're not going to make noises.
Thanks, y'all.
Okay, so that was a talk unlike what you usually see Joel Salatin talk about, but he put a good amount of thought into those 9 ways to opt out golf clap. Any comments or questions? And I'm going to hand it over to Tim right now to say something pithy.
Pithy. Oh, see, you put me right on the spot.
I know. That was really mean, wasn't it?
No, it's fine. Joel just blows me out of the water. When I interviewed him, I asked him, I said, have you ever been blindsided by somebody? Have they ever brought you on a radio show or something to basically tear you down? And he goes, yes, but here's the thing. Almost all the time, my approach is I come at it from a learning and I guess a loving perspective. And that's what he does. And I love that about him because he said he went to, I believe it was Harvard, and spoke there one time. Or no, it was Berkeley. One of the places where his message should not have flown at all. And his approach and his loving demeanor has a way of just getting that message that he has into you. And that's what I love about him. I even if you don't agree with what he says, which how could you not? Just the fact that his presentation format and style, I could listen to the man, like Ryan Pippin said earlier, could listen to him read the phone book, and I absolutely could.
Yeah, we had a good chance. So the cool thing about being at Self Reliance Festival with Joel Salatin or any of the other speakers is you get a lot of time to talk outside the session, right? Because I don't think I have anybody who does the show up and throw up. Like if somebody does that, they don't come back. That's my thing, because part of the purpose of the festival is to establish that community, and that includes speakers being part of the community, right? Like Angry American's going to come. I was talking to Angry American today, and he's going to be there for the event on site the whole time.
That's what he does. He loves to talk to people, and I love that. I mean where else can you get that? Sorry, where else can you get that?
Okay. It's true. And like if somebody's speaking on a Saturday and they can't make both days, like I get that. But if you're just there for your 45 minutes, then people don't get the chance to interact with you. And the things that we talked to Joel about outside of that session were even more powerful. And my biggest takeaway, and this is part of why we're doing a webinar with him in June, was that he talked about how he manages time on the farm, and you go out and you have a 4-hour project, move the sheep, for example. That would be one of ours. And sometimes you get done in 3.5 hours, and lunch isn't for another half hour. And so to recapture those 20-minute chunks of time that sometimes appear, they have a chalkboard with 20-minute projects. So you can be like, okay, things went well, so I can do this other thing. And it recaptures that time so you don't have to do it later. And yeah, right?
That
It's
is
like, how many
awesome.
times are you like, I have a 15-minute warning for a webinar to start. Now what can I do? Because everything's on, like the lights are on, whatever. But you don't want to like go down the rabbit hole of a 45-minute project, because then you end up not on the webinar when you're supposed to be.
You end up like that John Travolta meme where he's just standing there looking around like, what do
Yeah.
I do for the next 20 minutes? That is, I got to, I really
Now
need
you're
to.
going to have a 20-minute board, aren't you?
That is friggin' awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I loved, like, I've always loved talking to Joel Salatin, but that's why I loved getting out to these events so I can actually talk to people. Anyway, for me, I still have the logo on the screen. Is that true for everybody else right now? I wonder why that got stuck. Okay, there we go. We had a dog. We had a dog join the webinar for a minute. So, last reminder, guys, if you're going to come to the festival, tickets are $20 off, webinar 20 at selfreliancefestival.com. And the digital passes, you get access to the recordings over and over. So a lot of you in the comments saw this live at Self Reliance Festival in October. And you're like, man, this other thing struck me while I was listening to him. Every session in the digital passes are like that, right? So, is like that. So you end up, when you see things a second time, you didn't get distracted by the car driving by, or somebody asked you a question, or sometimes just having some distance from something and hearing it again. There were things that I was there the whole time, and there were things he said that I just did not hear because I was off on another, in my head. He said, go to you 10-year-old you, and there I was, 10-year-old me, not listening to a thing Joel said after that for about 5 minutes. So this time I actually listened to what he said after that.
So does that
Anyway.
what does that bring the price of tickets down to until Sunday?
$85.
$85. So
Yeah.
here's the thing. What does a person spend $85 on? Has anybody eaten out recently? Because I want to tell you, you can sit down at a decent restaurant for 2 people and spend $85. You can take a family of 4 to McDonald's. I would not recommend it, but it is $75 or $85. Be careful. You know what I mean? So a lot of times folks look at these events and they think, damn it, that is a lot of money. Well, number one, you're giving them a deal. But number two, look at it as an investment. And I talk about it all the time. And an investment is one of those things that you spend a bit upfront to see a huge return down the road. And I have never been an attendee or a speaker at an event where I didn't take something away from it that made my life better every single time. And I leave, last time I was, 5 events over, I don't even remember the amount of days, 38 days or whatever it was. And I was on my way home just wired because of how juiced and animated I was from Self Reliance Festival. And there's no BS there. Like, that is legit. I could show you pages and pages of notes that I spoke into my phone while I drove because of ideas that I got from Self Reliance Festival.
Oh man, I got to get that set up on my phone.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I do voice memos and I have to go listen to them, but I don't voice to text it. That's why hadn't I ever thought that was worth my price of admission tonight, that tip alone, because it's literally about turning on the voice to text.
That's all it is.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt for just a sec because it turns out voice to text might not work well if you have a really strong Texas accent. Just stop that in.
Yeah. That could just make it all the much more entertaining. I mean, otherwise I have to decipher this. That's the other way. So, okay, who's ready for a giveaway?
Oh, I like giveaways.
Yeah, let's do your patches.
Sounds good to me.
Toolman Tips patches. Okay, we ready for it, Rebecca?
I'm ready. Okay. Anita.
Anita, you win the patches. Pick them up from Toolman Tim.
Anita
Toolman
winner.
Tim, how does Anita get hold of you to make arrangements for that?
Well, you can come by our booth at Self Reliance Festival, and you can either speak to my wife, my beautiful daughters, or someone else that happens to be there. But come and find me, and I want to meet you in person. I want to hear your story. That's not contingent on getting them. You just have to come and say hello. But I love meeting folks and hearing their stories at these events. That's all. That's why I go, just to sit and listen and talk and do
And
my thing.
you're going to be with Lots again, right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. I'll be down probably wherever that is. Yeah. It's going to be a good time, but just come and find me. You won't be able to miss me, but come and find me and I'll make sure you get your prizes.
He does have a rather booming laugh.
Sometimes. Yes.
That's
That is
what I
good.
appreciate about you. Cause you're just like, I'm going to make a joke now. And it makes me laugh. And I think I should be funnier, but I'm really glad that you're funny so that you can make me laugh. Okay. The second giveaway, you don't have to come pick up at Self Reliance Festival, and it's a signed book by Joel Salatin. It's the Homestead Tsunami book. Definitely an awesome read, especially if you've been thinking about going back to the land, or even if you've already gone to the homestead and you've gotten yourself in that situation where you overcommitted and it became not fun. So let's do that one, and
Okay.
we'll do this one. Okay, go for it, Rebecca.
Okay.
Tim Cook.
You can't win, Tim. You're a co-host.
Josh K.
Josh K, you have won the Tsunami book, the Homestead Tsunami. To get that, email me, Nicole at livingfreeintennessee.com, or go to livingfreeintennessee.com and click on contact and fill that form out. That'll come to me. We need to make arrangements because I need your address and such. I'm going to tell you guys why we didn't do a spinny wheel. Because you may be wondering why we didn't do a spinny wheel. And it was because I did not want to put your names out on the internet on the live stream on the wheel. I was concerned that some of you may not want your names out on the live stream in that way. So I would actually like to figure out a way to show that only to the Zoom audience in the future. But we'll work on that for our next webinar series. This concludes Self-Reliance Voices, Lessons from Legends. I want to thank everybody so much for going on this journey with me. For me, it was a chance to calmly watch sessions when absolutely nobody was asking me AV questions or anything else that happens at the event. And it was a source of power for me in the last 5 days, as a lot of interesting things happened on my homestead that required a lot of hard work. I got my bacon ready to be cured, so did all of that. We got this bottle lamb. We've been delivering babies. We've been doing all sorts of stuff. And just thinking back to these nightly things has been really cool for me. So I want to thank everybody. You will have access to the recordings all the way through midnight on Sunday. The link to this one's recording is not going out till tomorrow morning, though. So I know we've had them out like right afterwards. This one I'm going to let the video render and send it out because there's been a little confusion about clicking on the link and the link doesn't work. So that'll go out. It'll have links to all the past recordings too, and the other extras that we got. We have Jack's presentation on Build Your Empire While There's Crumble. We have the cheese making webinar. We have a third thing. What's the third thing? I can't remember which other one we did.
Another surprise. It's a surprise.
It's a surprise to me too right now. Anyway, that'll all go out. And on Monday, we're going to be drawing who gets their free Self-Reliance Festival tickets from the people who have bought tickets by midnight on Sunday. That means we refund your money is what happens there. So that's all happening. And Tim, anything to say to close?
Just thank you very much. I come in here on 10 minutes. 10 minutes out of the car after being in the car for 11 hours, thinking I'm never going to be able to do this. And this is one hell of a time. I had a great time and I can't wait to see everybody at Self Reliance.
Well, thank you for making time for us on after such a major drive. I know that's always a fun thing to like shoehorn in there, but I'll see you in about 2 days.
Yeah, we will. That's right. We'll see a lot of each other over the next
Yeah.
6 weeks. I can't wait. So
Yeah. All right. Guys, have a great night. Make it a great week is something I have always signed off with, and we're going to do that tonight. And the reason I do that is it's up to you to make it a great week. So go out,